What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another edition of the Addicted to Combat cast. And I've got a returning guest today. I'm starting to cycle through guests. There will still be a lot of new people on the show, and there's some big guests lined up for the rest of the year. But sometimes I want to kick back and just enjoy a card, especially a lower level card once again with 12 fights on it. Not a lot of ranked competition. So to make it more exciting, I'll bring on one of my favorite people to break down fights with. And not to mention, there are 4 women's fights on this card. And my guest today, Mike, a.k.a. the Couch Warrior. Go follow him on Twitter and YouTube. It's all in the description. This guy is actually very profitable and very sharp at breaking down even the lowest of low-level women's MMA, even though there are some skilled fights, especially our main event, which is Marina Rodriguez versus Amanda Lemos. So I'm excited to have Mike here to help me make some bets because I only have a few so far, 3 money lines and 1 prop. But hopefully by the end of the show, we can agree on some spots, and maybe Mike will shed all of us some insight on some ways to make money on this card. So I'm going to bring him in right now. My guy, Mike, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Pat? Thanks for having me on, brother. Always a good time on here.
Of course, dude. I think the last time we broke down a card was UFC Paris, and I had a perfect night that night.
What are you talking about, bro? You were on my show like 2 weeks ago.
No, I mean the last time you were on here. Yeah. Of course, we always do shows. You're always having these panels on your channel. But yeah, the last time I had you on, I think it was UFC Paris with Tuivasa and Cyril Gane.
When your brother was fighting.
Yeah, my brother Cyril Gane. I can't wait to see him get back in the octagon. But we still got 12 fights on this card, still intact. What happened with all those people that were like stuck in a plane in Brazil? I think we had like 3 fighters in Brazil that hadn't made it to the States until today. Do you know anything what happened with that?
I just know that Lemos, like late last night, something like that, put up something that she's on her way. So, and no other fights have been canceled. So I imagine all the Brazilian people hopped on those flights, those late night flights. How that's going to affect them coming in so soon, I don't know. But it seems like they all made it.
Because we're missing Tamiris, Vidal, Viana, and the main event, Amanda Lemos. We're all
if Vidal doesn't show up, I'm going to lose it.
What's going on in Brazil? Are they having like a war or something?
I had no idea. I had to look it up. It's like something to do with they had an election and there's disputes now. I have no idea. I'm not going to talk about it, but it's like connected to that.
No, it sounds like the United States a little bit. So there's some presidential election stopping the flow. Yeah, I don't follow anything, politics. I really don't. I could give a shit unless it affects MMA. So now I'm intrigued. You know what I mean? It's like, if something's going to affect me in the world, it's got to affect me getting to the gym or betting on fights.
If it affects my bets, I need to know.
Yeah. So then I'll start, reading up on some foreign policy. But let's shout out the chat first before we go here. I saw Jenna Marie in the chat earlier. Shout out to her. We had Guy Mushroom saying, "What's up, Patrick and Mike? Let's fucking go."
The Lunch King.
The OG Daz Files in the house. What's going on, Daz? I think he's coming off of a nice winning weekend last week with the fights. Jenna Marie back in here. Yeah, we got CJP Bets. Hey, congrats on 100 subscribers there. It's going to start moving fast for this guy. Go check out his YouTube, CJP_UFC Bets. Great content there. My guy Cody, Blood Money MMA Bets. It's going to be a great show with Mike for sure. And we got Justin Villegas in here. This show's right here. David and Goliath did not need to fight. Could just make bets together. Of course, dude. Oh, he says, I'm just kidding. Couch Warrior looks like he was a bully. And were you a bully in school?
Hell no. If you would have seen me, bro, in the 4th grade, you guys see, I got thick eyebrows, right? This was very much a thing. They used to call me Seagull in the 4th grade, and I got bullied. I got bullied, bro. I was called the Seagull for the longest time until I chopped this shit off.
But then later on, you got into wrestling, right? So you were probably kicking people's ass, throwing nerds in lockers and stuff, weren't you, in high school?
You already know, bro. You already know.
Got the boss tuning in live from behind the wheel. Let's get it. Of course, man. That's how I consume most of my MMA YouTube content is when I'm driving to work. 33% of the card is women's fights, SMH. Well, I mean, like the first fight of the night, not that great, but especially the main event, I'm really into seeing Amanda Lemos and Marina Rodriguez. Are there any other fights on this card you're excited for, Mike?
Any fights I'm excited for? I'm pulling it up right. I mean, I can't not be excited for the super, super high level fight between Josh Parisian and Chase Sherman.
That's a good one.
Honestly, Mark Madsen, Grant Dawson, I'm very hyped for that one. I want to see what is Olympic wrestling going to beat MMA wrestling? We're going to find out. Hype for that. And I guess kind of hype for the Sholinian fight because he's a fellow countryman of mine. So those are my 3.
Yeah, it's like any other card, right? Where it's like the more we talk about these every single day and break them down from every angle, playing them out in our minds, then it's like, now I'm really excited to see any level fight in the UFC play out. So,
Especially because even when they stack it, look at 280, right? 280 was stacked to, was it that good? Not really.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you just had to see him play out. Some of the fights weren't that great, but 281 is looking great, and it seems to be.
In my backyard,
this card. This card is a little like lackluster because you got to remember there were some high level fights that got canceled due to injury and things like that. But from a betting perspective, I think this is better than last week in some ways. The props have made it interesting, and now they're starting to drop. So at least the mispriced ones on FanDuel I see are starting to drop as well.
I love
FanDuel
for that.
Even on BetUS. So I'm on this channel's a partner of BetUS. So look in the description for the promo code Addicted to Combat 125. You get 125% sports book bonus up to $2,500. Go check that out. And they do have some mispriced, like the rounded method props are pretty juiced. Sometimes they don't correct them. So check that out. Those are starting to sprinkle in. But let's go through the first fight of the night, dude.
Let's do it.
This is almost like a version of the Josh Parisian Sherman one, right? It's like two low-level women here at 135. We got Ramona Pascual taking on Tamiris Vidal, who is making her debut in the UFC. Yeah, and she's one of these women that we were talking about at the top, got stuck in Brazil, and now I guess she's made it. So if this fight happens, this is the third time we're seeing Ramona Pascual in the UFC. I think her first time at bantamweight, though. So I wonder if that's going to play a factor. I don't think she's actually fought at that weight class for a while. A lot of people are taking the plus money on Ramona Pascual. I get it. I just can't back her in this fight, even as a pick. She's right around like that plus 120-ish price tag right now, minus 140 on Tamiris Vidal. I would not choose a money line on this fight. I do like the under 2.5 if I had to make a bet, which is right at plus 195, nearing plus 200. You don't know how Tamiris Vidal is going to be in a 3-round higher level fight, at least at a big stage like the UFC. She does have that BJJ credential. She could get the job done inside the distance or just fall apart entirely. So the under 2.5 is how I would play this fight if I had to, but I'm just going to pass. Do you have any interest in betting this fight, Mike?
Well, I've already got a unit on Pascual.
Nice.
I was going to put 2 units, but then I was like, Mike, get it together. I went to the refrigerator. I picked up my bag of oranges. I beat myself with it. And then you know what? I got it together and I was able to just put 1 unit. Now, all that said, I'm going to give out something crazy after I'm done talking. You might have to kick me off the show, Pat. It's that crazy. Not really.
Break this fight down for me because I don't know what's going to happen. The only reason I picked Vidal is because, 1, I don't like anything I've seen from Pascual so far. And then 2, it looks like Vidal is comfortable, at least in her arena of getting a heel hook or looking for submissions. So she seems to be better at that than anything else that Pascual has to offer.
But see, I love betting against people who we'll talk about someone else fighting later who does the same thing. But I love betting against people who will stay on their back, look for those ankle locks, try to get those submissions off their back. Because, yeah, they're going to get them sometimes. But then you put them against someone with some decency in their head with good wrestling, and it's going to be a lot harder to do it off your back. I just feel like Pascual, the most important thing here is both of these women are low level, right? But one of them is making their debut on a late night flight with all these issues. And the other one has fought twice now in the UFC, one on a big card where some felt she won. I did not think she won that fight, but she did good for somebody, we were just hating on her a lot and she did a lot better than we thought. I think that Pascual slightly has the better striking, which sounds crazy. I don't think it's really good. I don't think it's going to be left there all that much. I think we're going to see a lot of clinch time. I do think Pascual will get her down. I do think that Vidal is going to give up control time. I don't get the line. I would have thought this would open with Pascual as the favorite. I'm not sure if that was the case. It was not. She opened plus 200.
Wow.
But the crazy bet I wanted to talk about, I'm very, very, very tempted on a Pascual round 3 or round 3 KO bet. Vidal slows down. That for sure we've seen. We've seen that in a lot of her fights. In the Aileen Perez fight where she won by disqualification because Perez did 3 different illegal things in a row and just got disqualified.
Yeah, it was an amazing one.
If you watched it, it was like a knee to the head, a kick to the crotch, and before that, it was like back of the head shots. So it was 3 in a row, and then she got disqualified. But I just feel like Vidal is going to give up a lot of time there. I feel like Pascual can grind this out. I kept it to a unit because it's low level. I think a late finish might be live on Pascual, so I'll sprinkle that, but that's me. Mushroom, seeing what I'm seeing a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what were the odds on that for round 3?
FanDuel hasn't come out yet. I actually checked right before the show.
Bet online plus 1,800 for just Pascual in round 3. KO in round 3 plus 2,500 for Ramona Pascual. That
I bet you FanDuel gives us 3,000. That's my guess.
Probably.
And I'm gonna hit that. I'm gonna hit that.
I mean, I don't disagree with any of that, to be honest with you. Like, it makes sense to me, but it's just so many unknowns in this fight. I'm looking at Bet US as the same thing. Ramona Pascual KO round 3 plus 2,500. Okay, well, yeah. I mean, if it gets to that point, it's anybody's game, right? If this gets out of round 1 and they just look gas going into round 2. Who knows, you know? And I don't hate anybody putting plus money on Ramona Pascual, just taking the dog, especially with all the travel. You know, we're going to speak about that a few more times. The travel stuff, even in the main event, Amanda Lemos might be dealing with the exact same thing because they just landed in Vegas today. So they're just getting situated and it's already Wednesday. They're fighting on Saturday, weighing in on Friday, you know? So yeah, I don't know. Let's speaking of that fight you brought up with all the Aileen Perez fight versus Tamiris Vidal, just like that reminded me of something that you would bet on, Mike, because you bet on like all of these like regional promotion shows like LFA, CFFC, anything with a line, all the stuff in Russia you do like ACA and stuff.
I would have hammered Perez there if I ever saw that line. I don't know what she was. If I taped that, I would have hammered Perez and lost all my money.
Dude, that reminds me of like the if you ever go to Vegas, like when I was a kid going through the Mirage in Vegas, their sports book there had like 200 TVs. You could bet on literally like anything. You could bet on like any fight you wanted, any promotion. I know MMA wasn't that big back then, but like 2 soccer moms duking it out in a Walmart parking lot. They probably would have a line on it, you know, and like round props. Just the best sports book of all time.
Bro, but this fight could have been on World Star.
Yeah, exactly. Something on World Star quality. I hope it's sloppy, and I hope it's like I said, the female version of the Chase Sherman Parisian fight. But moving on, we do have something a little bit more high level here, hopefully at least a little bit, with Jake Hadley taking on Carlos Candelario, and the odds for that one, we're looking at Jake Hadley coming in here as a guy who was off the Contender Series, kind of disappointed in his debut against Nascimento, but he's still the minus 250 favorite. That's come down a bit. Carlos Candelario can be hit at plus 210, so both guys looking to get a win and bounce back here. Any bets in this fight? I want you to break this one down first, Mike.
Yeah, so this one was tough for me because I love losing money on Candelario. I've thought like everyone thinks so lowly of him, and I just don't see it. Like, he's a good fighter. He's had some tough matchups. In my opinion, he won clearly against Altamirano. Obviously, Dana White agrees with me because he signed the first loser in all of Dana White's Contender Series history, and then didn't do it again. And I wrote, so it's funny because I ended up betting Hadley by submission plus 550 for a quarter unit because I didn't want to stake anything else. But I have a whole essay in my notes pretty much yelling at myself saying, everyone's talking about this sub game of Hadley. Candelario has never been submitted A. Candelario fought Jose Aldo's BJJ coach who won all his fights previous to that by sub. Did not get submitted on 5 attempts. He fought Tatsuro Taira, who we just saw submit CJ Vergara. He did not get submitted. So it's really hard for me to see Hadley submitting him, and yet I bet it anyways because of this. Candelario, like I said, good defense on the BJJ, but he is getting taken down. He is giving up his back. And at the end of the day, one day it's gonna catch up to you. It's like taking shots to the head with a good chin. Eventually that chin is gonna crack. Eventually you're gonna get choked out if you keep giving your back. I played it that way. Otherwise, I would have taken Candelario just money line for a sprint, like a half unit. I didn't want to do that. Did the Hadley sub plus 550. I don't know what it's at now. I just didn't think it would open better than that, even on FanDuel. So that's why I played it. And yeah, I mean, there's so much to like from Hadley on the feet, honestly. Like, I didn't expect that. I didn't remember it so much. But I went back to it, and like, I really like that high guard thing he does. You notice it in the tape pad, he's like this. It opens up your body. I'll give you that. But first off, Candelario doesn't throw a lot of body shots. And second of all, so far it's held up. His defense, I think, in the striking for Hadley is in the 70% mark, I believe, or like high 60s, somewhere there.
That's pretty impressive.
It's very impressive, right?
For limited fights, but still, yeah.
And like, it's not like I'm some Hadley fanboy, you know. I bet Nascimento against him, ended up working out well for me. I just think that I think Hadley's live, but I didn't want to play much, so I did a quarter unit.
Yeah, I like the Hadley submission at plus 550. I saw that as well, and I wrote that down to see if that maintains, and maybe I would be talked onto a bet there because I think it is one of the primary win conditions, right? He's got a very slick back take, something that he does routinely time and time again. And like you said, time and time again, Candelario finds himself in those submission threat positions. Not that he has given it up so far, but you know, the time is coming, right? The more that you point out how good his submission defense has been, it's like we've had a lot of chances to see him try to test that. It's like you don't want to be in those positions all the time. So Hadley's he's got a slick way about him, man. I just really think he can get the job done. If nothing else, you know, if this does go to decision, do you think he does have a good chance to put up enough strikes on the board to beat Candelario?
Hadley?
Yeah.
I don't know if he can do it just striking. If he grapples, I think he'll win a decision too. The thing, the one other thing I would note is Hadley. So he fought on the Contender Series against. I always mix up this guy and Dan Argueta. Do you remember his name?
Oh, I can't remember the kid's
Mitch Raposo. Mitch Raposo.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So Mitch, we're going to talk about who Mitch fought on the Ultimate Fighter soon. He's another guy, Ludwig, but Mitch is a good wrestler, a very good wrestler. He was the first pick on the Ultimate Fighter. And
yeah, that's right. He did have those fights in common. It was funny to see that name come up a couple of times in the tape study. I thought I was having deja vu for a second.
Yep. And he couldn't really take down Ludwig. Ludwig was the one who out wrestled him. So, and then in the Hadley fight, though, he did out wrestle Hadley in that first round. He did. He got takedowns. He was able to get control. Candelario, even though his takedown defense is trash, his own offensive wrestling has also held up. So, is a decision win for him out of the question? I don't think so, but I do lean Hadley.
Yeah, and the bookies think that the overs are in play as well, with the overs being at like minus 210, minus 215. Oh, wow. Just in case the submission defense holds up. Yeah, I think it's a case where Hadley could win that decision just based off of, like you said, just putting his opponent on the defense the whole time, where he'll just be doing more activity, being more aggressive, maybe getting a takedown and having to chase the guy popping back up to his feet. Yeah, I agree with Mushroom. Hadley has skinny arms to get under your chin and get a good squeeze.
Skinnier than Tyra?
True. Yeah, I mean, that's true. What's up, MMA Propaholic? Saying what's up, guys? Check out MMA Propaholic on Lou Betya's show on the MMA Engine. Props to consider, and then maybe bet. They do high value, like more long shot props, but really good insight from MMA Propaholic, who's been doing a lot of good Twitter breakdowns. So go follow him on Twitter. And I'm hoping to see him on YouTube soon, man. The guy can speak on camera and get his point across pretty well. So we got Justin Viegas saying, I want to root Hadley. Got weird statistics sometimes. UK fighter, bad boys, stay away fighters. Yeah, I know. You got to shave completely like Madsen. Yeah, no, I kind of agree with that. But yeah, I don't know. I might join you on that quarter unit sprinkle on like a plus 550 sub, because I do think it's
plus here. 400 now on Bet Online, Pat.
We're going to have to find it somewhere else.
Hopefully FanDuel will give it to you.
Still worth a shot for probably the thing he's going to be going for most of the time.
Do you have Bet Rivers?
No.
They're like the only other book who also like gives atrocious, crazy lines on this stuff.
That's good to know. Yeah, I love those ones where they open it up and you just already know you're searching for the prop that you know is going to be mispriced. Yep. That's great. But moving on to Johnny Munoz Jr. taking on Ludovic Sholinian, who we just brought up, and this is up at 155 and 135, excuse me. So we've got Sholinian, who the Ukrainian wrestler here. I'm not too impressed with the guy so far. I do. I have faith that in his like skills, he is a Ukrainian wrestling champion. You can see the budding skills there. His striking is very basic, though, from what I've seen. Johnny Munoz Jr. is a guy who, although he's just got chin checked, he's decent on the feet. He's a free flowing striker in a lot of ways. He's got some good combinations. He just moves a lot more fluidly, which I like. He can get in and out of range. His footwork seems to be better, and the guy's a whiz on the ground. So in a case like this where it's two grapplers, you kind of want to see what happens if this gets neutralized and they just stay on their feet. So I do prefer Johnny Munoz Jr. to get this done, put more points on the board. And like I said, his footwork and his technique with the striking just seems so much more advanced than what I've seen from Sholinian. But again, it's from what I've seen from Sholinian. He's not had a lot of chances to prove himself so far. So besides going one-on-one in the Ultimate Fighter, his debut to Jack Shore, I mean, that's like a huge skill gap. Jack Shore is so good, who put him on the defense from the submissions, kind of like we talked about in the last fight, right? He displayed some good defense from the BJJ of Jack Shore to Sholinian, but you don't want to see him in those positions. So because of this, I'm going to lean Johnny Munoz Jr. The money line was somewhere around minus 200 for Johnny Munoz Jr. Minus 235 it's moved up to, and you've got plus 200 on Sholinian. There might be some value on Sholinian just based on the unknowns, and his defense could be there. I don't know. I'm kind of confused by this fight, as you can tell. I have no bet on it. I am leaning Johnny Munoz Jr., but I don't think it's worth that minus 235 price tag. What do you think on this one? Any bets?
Yeah, so I'll say this. Look, you can say I'm biased on Sholinian because, I'm Ukrainian. He's Ukrainian. But I normally don't let my biases get to me. And I pulled it up while you were talking about it because personally, I do feel that Munoz Jr.'s sub game is overrated. I think it's overrated. Okay, I pulled up the record while you were talking. That's what I was looking at because I wanted to see who's he submitting.
Right.
All right, so in the UFC, he's got one sub win against Jamie Simmons. I understand Jamie Simmons was Division III wrestler. His record was not great, first of all. Second of all, Jamie Simmons got brought into the UFC because Giga couldn't get a freaking finish, and they wanted him to get a finish. So they brought in Jamie Simmons, finished him, and then they were like, all right, let's feed him to another prospect. Gave him to Munoz Jr. Before that, Ian King, at the time 5-3-0. Now 5-5-0. Before that, Uriel Casio Dominguez, 8-4-0. Now I believe 15-8-0. Mauricio Diaz, 3-2-0 at the time. Now 3-6-0. So I can keep going because they're all the same, but I won't because they're all the same. So I don't think his BJJ is that high level. It looks good in the tape, yeah, but I just don't think it's quite there. I think that if he's gonna go shoot, hoping for those subs from bottom, I think Sholinian's gonna pick up minutes. And on the feet, that's where I was concerned about Sholinian. I don't like backing people with a bad output. I don't like backing people who are missing a lot. And those are two things that Sholinian does.
Yeah.
But what made me feel
the accuracy was just not there. I agree with you.
But what made me feel a little bit better there is it's kind of the same story for Johnny Munoz Jr., 41% striking accuracy. I just pulled it up because you mentioned that. Output is atrocious. Against Nate Maness, he's got 49 significant strikes. 16 of those were at distance. So it's not like Johnny Munoz Jr. is coming in here with the superior striking. I think they're equally bad at striking. Neither one is quite there. They both prefer to grapple. And I personally like to back wrestlers over BJJ guys. It's looking like I'm going to get better than plus 200. So, it's going to be hard for me to resist to play this probably for a unit. If it gets higher than plus 200, I think that's a little bit silly.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at like a 70% implied that Munoz wins this fight. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
for as unproven as these guys are. So I think the value does fall on Ludovic Sholinian. It's just this might be like a spot where I just sit back and watch.
He doesn't throw enough,
Yeah, he just looks so awkward and like herky jerky in the feet. I don't like it. So might be a spot where I stay back and watch, but if you are like a value better, I think the value does, and Mike agrees, it lands on Ludovic Sholinian. As far as the overs and unders go for this one, do you think this goes to the scorecards more times than not? This is like minus 205 for the over 2.5 I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think it's going to go over, and I don't know if you saw, before the show, I posted like a alternate totals parlay on DraftKings where they post alternate totals. If the line is over 2.5, they'll post over 1.5, and it's normally like minus 400.
I use Bovada for that. That's always fun.
Bovada kicked out New York because they wanted to win the legal licenses, and then they didn't get it. So sorry, Bovada. But yeah, I mean, I like those alternate overs, and I think that right now Sholinian and Munoz, this fight is not up on DraftKings for the alternate. But when it is, I'm gonna hit that. It's gonna be like over 1.5. It's gonna be like minus 450. I'm going to parlay it with something. I think we're definitely going to go over that. I don't see a finish. If we do get a finish, you got to think it's Munoz Jr. with a sub, right?
I think so. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Sholinian could pull it off, but there'd have to be a huge mistake, or it'd be like, a club and sub type of thing, maybe like the accumulation of damage and fatigue.
He's not a big finisher,
Yeah, Justin making a good point. Munoz more rounded, not necessarily better. That's really exactly how I saw this. And they say, I don't know, no matter where you are in Brazil, if one loses, they all start losing bad. If one wins, they all start winning. It's kind of like that, man. Back in the day, like maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like I think 80% of the top 10 were Brazilian. Like all of the champions were Brazilian for the most part, besides like GSP. It was insane for a little bit there, but yeah, moving on to something, another women's fight here, second one of the night. And this one is always interesting when it's like striker versus grappler. We got Jinh Yu Frey taking on Viana at women's strawweight 115 bout. The big thing on paper for the tail of the tape that stands out, Jinh Yu Frey is 37 years old compared to Viana, who's 30. But Jinh Yu Frey still looks like she has it. You know, she's always going to be undersized in these spots as the small former Invicta atomweight. You know, she's got solid Muay Thai, although sometimes she can, you know, be in challenging striking matches with people who aren't really on her level technically. But man, the money line is just really moving up. You're getting like plus 120 on Jinh Yu Frey as an underdog at this point. Viana is now sitting around minus 140. And Viana is really, you know, she's the grappler. She's 3-4 in the UFC. She's got 3 subs all in round 1, you know, so this is 0-4 in decisions as a career total there. So a way that I would play this versus just going like Viana submission is I would just play the under if you're looking for that spot, because the under is plus 210. Her submission is like plus 300. You could play it safe. I know that Jinh Yu Frey isn't like ever getting finishes, which is why that is the way it is. But why would you get greedy and not like ensure both sides? Anything could happen. You know, she could Calvin cater her knee or something and it ends under and Jinh Yu Frey gets the TKO. I am leaning the Jinh Yu Frey side, and I might even get to the money line there unless you talk me off of it, Mike. But as far as like Jinh Yu Frey's experience, it's just really leading me to pick her in this fight as a solid underdog at this point, plus 120. I like Jinh Yu Frey to just cruise to a decision here, outpointing her and staying safe from the submissions. But I don't know. Should I be scared about Viana?
It's looking like we're going to talk each other onto this bet, Pat, because I came into this show on the same boat thinking I like Frey. I want to see what Pat's going to say. Yeah. So I'm hyped that you were thinking the same thing as me. Look, I went into the tape and I remembered the Demopoulos fight, right? Demopoulos has a, you know what her reach is? It's hilarious. 59-inch reach. I'm not sure we've seen something so short in a long time.
I think that's like smaller than like Corey McKenna, I want to say.
Right. And she still outstruck Jinh Yu Frey. So that was a terrible look. And, you know, Viana's longer. Viana does have good striking, decent straight strikes. But then I ran the tape back. And, like, yes, she lost that fight, Frey. But first of all, a lot of people felt she won.
That was shocking. I was shocked when that happened, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and second,
that was the first. I remember that was like the first fight of a card too. So then, like the rest of the card was like kind of sketchy. I remember as well.
But like I just feel like Frey's actually a better striker than we're remembering. Like I turned on that Demopoulos fight and I was like, "You go, there you go!" Like she was killing it. The one thing I have with Frey is bad fight IQ. You know, multiple times now we've seen her get outstruck. And rather than going for a takedown, she just continues striking. The Gloria De Paula fight, for example, right? The one other thing I wanted to bring up, why I think we're relatively safe playing Jinh Yu Frey, I don't think Viana's going to win this fight by decision. And look, you can say she's going to win by sub. I've heard so much about the terrible sub defense about Jinh Yu Frey. She's been submitted one time by Kay Hansen in round 3. I think a lot of it comes from people saying, you know, Kay Hansen, OnlyFans, whatever. Kay Hansen was training at 10th Planet BJJ in Vegas. They are no joke in the grappling. They train no gi there. She's been training those arm bars. She hit it. It doesn't happen all the time, though. So I do think she grinds out Viana. And I think if we wait a little bit, we'll get like plus 130 or something. And I'm probably going to hit it, too.
Yeah, so, okay, you think it's going to keep on moving in that direction? It's already at, like, plus 121, I want to say, right? So
yeah, so we got a little bit of pushback at 121 on Bet Online, but every other book is still going up, so I think we're going to keep going.
I think what's funny is I was looking at Bet Online before we got on, and it was Yeah, it was Jinyu Frey. The money line on Bet Online is plus 121. The decision prop is plus 125 because they haven't moved it in
I
accordance.
wanted to bring that up, bro.
And they probably won't move it either. They'll probably just keep it exactly the same, or at a certain point make it even less. Like it'll be like Jinyu Frey plus 140, and then by decision it's like plus 125.
I think it was like that when I first looked at it this week. I think Jinyu Frey was like plus 114, and like her decision was even lower, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's so annoying, but they're like, close enough. It's probably accurate, right? It's like her money line just going to the decision. We got what did I see here? Jenna Marie calling a knee bar from Viana. I mean, it wouldn't be the most unlikely thing in the world. I wish they had like all of those props for the big pay-per-views where you could choose the submission. You could better buy that and get like plus 10,000. Yeah, mushrooms on Viana inside the distance. Got my boy CJP calling her a hottie. That must mean he's on that side too, putting in his simp bets as usual. I'm just playing, man. Yeah, and Justin making a good point. I've been questioning fighters. So he's probably talking about the age at 37, but when your body's in good shape, never count a person out. I mean, that's true. We've been seeing a lot of 40 plus fighters.
Frey looks jacked.
She does. Fight. She's shredded. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's still got that like Adam Waits kind of like shred to her for sure. So, yeah, and she saw me pouring up a drink. I got my Jameson on deck, even though I'm wearing a Jim Beam shirt. Oh, there we go. Hey, no laws in your drinking clause, Mike. All right, let's move on. Get through this even more. We've got a fun fight because the returning Benito Lopez, who I think is working as Ally Quinta's secretary or something these days, right? Isn't he? I hear he's in real estate. You have any insight on this? You're always keeping track of where these guys are training. Are you keeping track of their side gigs?
So I don't keep track of their side gigs. I do know he's not at Alpha Male anymore, which I think is actually really relevant information because if he had been training at Alpha Male since 2019, I probably wouldn't bet this fight at all because he can come in looking like a beast, but he hasn't. He's been focusing on his family. He probably should be. At the end of the day, MMA is a terrible career choice for like 99% of people. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's been doing real estate.
Over 3 years. It's been since July of 2019, so we've seen Benito Lopez. But, yeah, I mean, speaking of side gigs, yeah, the women get the OnlyFans side gig, and the men are like, can I interest you in a mortgage, sir?
The real estate agent is the OnlyFans version for men.
Yeah. All right, and he's taking on Mario Bautista. My point here, man, I had no idea that I would beat the line movement on this one. I put in 2.35 units on Bautista win one. That was when it was minus 235. He's up to minus 300 now. So, yeah, I mean, and I was doing the same thing. I was just even pre-tape. I like Bautista. I like his skill set. He has, been humbled a couple times here. The Trevin Jones one and his, first fight against Corey Sandhagen. Whatever, that's forgivable. I think he's looking a little bit more refined, a little bit less wild, but not so, tame that he doesn't have that same explosiveness to him. But yeah, I was just fading the Benito Lopez layoff. I mean, that is substantial. So I think it's Benito Lopez early, or this goes past round one. I just really don't think he's got a shot here against Bautista, who could win in a number of ways. I like the under on this one because the under is actually giving us a little bit of, it's something to work with here, right? The under is plus 110, the under 2.5. So I think Mario Bautista gets this done inside the distance, but it leaves that, that shock value from Benito Lopez, who could come in here and just, make a statement with something crazy. I don't think it happens. Give me Bautista. I think he's safer parlays too. What do you think here? You started cheering when I said the under in this fight.
I started cheering because I'm on the fight doesn't go at minus 115. And I've been surprised at this line. I really have. We've got a minus 300 favorite here against a guy who has not fought since 2019. And somehow you still think it's even money to go fight goes or fight doesn't. Like I don't agree with that at all. I think that the only reason I don't play under 2.5s anymore, I just swore them off because I played fight doesn't go the distance in the Makayev Gordon fight. And I was shredding up my ticket.
Yeah, that was a close one, man.
And then we got it. So
yeah, you were big on that one. I was cheering for you on that one.
Like 3 or 4 units on the inside the distance, like 10 units on Makayev. I mean, I knew he was winning, but I really needed that finish. So because of that, I'm never betting under 2.5.
It was so nice to see everybody on Twitter like cheering together that had like huge money on the either Makayev inside the distance or sub or some sort of fight doesn't go.
So many of us parlayed the hell out of last week.
That was so cool.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of I love that Mushroom St. Lopez is training with Team Century 21. probably accurate. We got Prince of Mischief in the chat saying what up. And see Propaholic saying Daz, what's up? Yeah, man. What we got? CJP here saying originally I picked Benito, not gonna lie, but gotta go stop Mario Bautista after rewatching tape again. Yeah, I mean, but do you agree with that, Mike? Do you think Bautista's like a little bit like improved, sort of? He's not so wild and defensively lacking. He can go a solid 3 rounds.
And I mean, I don't even think that it's fair to say that he was bad in the Trevin Jones fight. Trevin Jones just catches you. It's what he does. He did in the Valiev fight, and Valiev is a beast too, you know? So I think that Bautista has been improving. I don't think he's ever been bad. I think it's really important to talk about this because he's at MMA Lab. And MMA Lab, yeah, they're a good camp in general. But for bantamweight, I'm not sure you can find a better place on the planet. Because if you're a bantamweight training there, you're training with Sean O'Malley. You're training with my guy Kyler Phillips. You're training with Casey Kenny. You're training with the best of the best bantamweights.
That's a good room.
Biggest up-and-comers. So, and you can see it, right? You look at that Jay Perrin fight. How often do you see a UFC fighter defending takedowns by grabbing the neck, turning it, and turning it around? You almost don't. And he was doing it constantly. That's high-level stuff. I think that he's just rapidly improving. He's the one who's active. And on the other side, Benitez is doing life. He's making himself money doing something else.
He had a lot of injuries too. Did you do you know what any of the? I know there was a knee injury at some point. There's like a lot of injuries that were keeping him out of the UFC for a while.
So I had no idea about that. I thought it was his own choice to stay out, but
I think his comeback. I think even recently, I was digging through trying to figure out if he had surgery or something. I couldn't really find too much of it, but I went down a huge rabbit hole of. And then I even saw like a Twitter post at one point when he wanted to come back to the UFC. Like he tagged the matchmakers, like, "All right, injuries have kept me away, but I want to come back." And that was kind of his statement. So
I ended up. I played Bautista inside the distance. I did do that at plus 155 for a half unit. I'm not sure what it's at now. I didn't want to put too much on it because I do think he can grind out a decision too if Benito pulls up tough. But
I think they did that thing on at least on Bet Online where they had the KO was kind of high for Bautista as well as the submission, and then inside the distance was like where you got it, like plus.
I wanted to ask you, what do you think of Bautista sub?
I don't know. I think it's a crapshoot, right? Because Benito Lopez could fold after getting hit and then not even give up, any resistance to that and just get TKO'd. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think that's why they have it. Yeah. Bautista by submission plus 475. KO is KO is plus 300. So they're making you choose between the two. It seems like a little bit.
Plus 600 though on DraftKings.
So yeah, I would just take the inside the distance if anything, and that's why I love the under at plus money because you don't have to worry. Bautista could get it. He could fall over and cater his knee like last week's main event. Keep on. That's just what I referred to as somebody tearing their ACL. I'm just like, you just got catered.
Did you have Cater?
Yeah, I did.
I'm so sick and tired of losing off injuries, dude. Cater,
Aspinall,
Ortega. Man.
The only one that I got this year was Jan Blachowicz because it went the opposite
way. Me too.
Yeah. So I was like one for 3 on that. So I don't know. We're getting all of our main event injuries just out of the way this year. Hopefully it just never happens again. But it's definitely on the back of my mind for like method or inside the distance for the guy I think is going to win, or do I take the under, and sometimes the under is worth just shaving off that 20% and just saving the injury, So I don't know. But yeah, Prince of Bishop saying the same thing. Inside the distance plus 165. But yeah, we're both on Bautista there. No love for the realty, I guess. Moving on to another fun fight here. Miranda Maverick taking on Shayna Young at flyweight. The third women's fight we have. I think I'm in line here. Yep. All right. So we're halfway through this card already. Maverick and Shayna Young have fought before. They fought in Invicta in like a tournament that ended up, it was counted as an exhibition, but Maverick got that round 1 submission over Shayna Young. I don't know how much better Shayna Young really is since that fight. You know what I mean? Like, I think Miranda Maverick, her striking is so much better now. Her striking defense still needs a little bit of improvement, but her offense is a little bit more active and sharp. and her takedowns are well timed. You know what I mean? So she's not just like relentlessly going for it without a little bit of fundamental striking to set it up. Break this fight down for me, man. Do you see a path for Shayna Young? You taking her as a dog, or where do you see this fight headed? You know, how early do you think Maverick can get this submission? Because that's where my mind's at.
So I'll say this. I don't think Shayna Young can win this fight unless she gets lucky. You know, I love Shayna Young. She made me a ton of money. I played her by KO against Gina Mazzani, and that was sick. So it's hard to bet against her now when she made me bread. But like I said, we don't stick to our biases here. We bet with our brains. The one thing I want to say, like everybody all week is going to tell you Maverick. She's minus 600. It's obvious. Maverick by sub. You know, that's how she beat her the first time. I played it. I played Maverick sub, half a unit, plus 160, plus 185. But the one thing I'm not hearing is that when they fought, it's not like Maverick took her down, controlled her, and then subbed her. No, she actually struggled. She actually struggled to get her down. She actually struggled to keep her down. And, you know, I actually do think that Shayna Young's been improving a bit. I know she spent time at Syndicate. I don't know if she's still there. Maverick's at Elevation, so it's hard to argue against that. You know, one of the best camps in the game, in my opinion.
I love it.
Yeah, I just feel like people are kind of underestimating Young. All that said, I mean, I do think Maverick rolls. I do think Maverick gets a sub. I just don't think it's smart to parlay her is pretty much what I'm saying, because just watch their first fight and you'll see what I'm talking about. It wasn't domination like everyone's saying. So,
yeah, no, I agree with you on the Shayna Young part. I do. She's 1-2 in the UFC, coming off of that exciting first win, and win by stoppage, no less. That was round 2, right? A round 2 TKO. I remember she kept on
round
slamming.
1 or 2.
I think it was round 2, I want to say, and she came in there like a madman, got the ground and pound stoppage, and I do rate Shayna Young's striking is probably going to be more effective than Miranda Maverick's in this fight, just due to the size difference and even more of like that giant reach of Shayna Young. I mean, their reach is about the same, but she uses her legs and does that lead leg side kick to maintain distance. That could drag this out a little bit, you know? So I'm thinking of like, yeah, either we saw a round 1 sub for Maverick the first time. 5 minutes is a long time in there against somebody who's going to relentlessly try to take you down and, you know, already has the confidence of beating you before. So, yeah, either round 1 or round 2 sub for Maverick. I do like the under. The under is not that bad, right? Like the under is a pick 'em. Like fight doesn't go is minus 115.
What's Maverick inside the distance?
Plus 125. And that's something I do have a bet on. That's my only prop I've got a bet on so far. I've got 1.5 units on plus 125 inside the distance. Because, again, it's like I want to take
plus 125.
Yeah, for Maverick inside the distance.
Okay, yeah.
And her submission is like right around plus 200. So, you know, I'll give up that 75% on that just to get, you know, just in case she ends up just going for the TKO, the choke doesn't come. You know how it goes sometimes. And we've seen Shayna Young, you know, succumb to ground and pound before. So
I talk about this all the time, man. Like, just because someone's such a good submission artist, it could mean they're more live for a KO. Because how many times do we see someone take a back and then just beat them up and get the KO finish, you know?
Yeah, it happens a lot, and then you don't want to be on one of those sides, especially when you're getting plus money. I try not to be greedy with it, you know what I mean? So this case I can be with a method, just because we're trying to chop down a giant to like minus 600 or more money line on Miranda Maverick. I didn't even say the odds for this fight, but yeah, it's like what, minus 600 or more at this point?
Even higher, yeah.
For Miranda Maverick. Let's see, BetOnline always goes crazy with this once they get juiced. But we're looking at, Miranda Maverick minus 650 plus 475 Shayna Young. So, we're just trying to chop down and improve minus 650. So to get a plus number on inside the distance, I will take it.
You seeing what Propaholic said?
No, I'm not. What do we have here?
He said Maverick by KO is plus 900.
That's insane.
That's kind of absurd, right? Because of
insane.
Literally what we were just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you could sprinkle on that. I mean, you know, even a tenth of a unit
or
a
wow.
fifth of a unit, you know?
You know what? I'll tell you this. I think a good way to see a good bet is looking at the line. Sometimes I just pulled it up. Like he said, Maverick KO is plus 900 on BetOnline, but DraftKings opened it up at plus 400.
Okay, sure. So just comparing books and seeing how
it's a really big difference.
Ridiculous that is.
I kind of did that when I bet Islam Charles Oliveira inside the distance at minus 172. And when I opened up the line, I looked over like a few lines to like, I think it was Betway or something. They had minus 400. And I was like, okay, hammer.
Yeah, you got to have access to different books that have these long shot props and just start comparing them. I'm not one to always like. I rarely do I like spam, a ton of like action on these long shot props unless I really see it being, likely. I know you're more of like you have a giant portfolio on certain fights. I mean, they're always smart plays, and you're not emptying out your bankroll to do it. But
I've been hesitant recently, but it used to be a big thing. I mean, I love it. Like I remember I hit Devin Clark by KO in round 3 plus 2,300. Like even weed can't compare.
yeah. So. So we're on the same side. No hot take. I'm surprised you're not trying to make a case for Shani Young more defiantly here, but I guess I'm kind of happy about
when
that.
I like dogs, I need to see a path, and like in my mind, even if she makes it hard for Maverick, at worst we're gonna lose our inside the distance bets. I still think Maverick will win, even if it's a hard fight.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be something horribly wrong happens to her, some sort of injury or something like that. So. Let's see if I'm on the right path here. I think I got Derek Minner up next, right? Derek Minner against Nuerdanbieke at featherweight. And I love Derek Minner, dude. He's a fun fighter. Like he's in that first half of a 3-round fight, the guy is just the savage. And he's got a very, very good guillotine, which he'll kind of fake like he's not, if somebody tries to take him down against the cage, he'll fake like he's not going for the guillotine and then just automatically crank it up and, get the submission. He's got 22 submissions out of his 26 fights. So that's definitely his path to victory. Most of the time they're earlier than later as well, but he's very kill or be killed because he's been finished a lot and subbed himself 8 times. So the guy's got a lot of fights in his record. He's pretty battle worn for only being 32. But he finds himself the underdog here against the Chinese wrestler in Nuerdanbieke. The last I saw, it was like right around minus 200 or so for Nuerdanbieke in this fight. That might have changed. Minus 200, minus 210 for Sholinian. Derek Minner can be had for plus 180. And yeah, Derek Minner needs a win here, man. He's coming off of back-to-back losses. Lost to Ryan Hall by decision, which is shocking that you can't, if you're not going to get subbed by Ryan Hall, at least, outpoint him on the feet.
How do you lose to him if he doesn't submit?
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think the same thing could be said for Sholinian right now. Like, how does he lose against Derek Minner unless he, gets submitted? So I think it's round 1 or round 2 at the latest sub for Derek Minner, but he tends to fold when this fight goes after round 1. So I got to side with Sholinian Nuerdanbieke, but I think Derek Minner should be respected a little bit more in this spot, to be fair. So the unders I'm liking in this spot, the under 2.5 at minus 130. I think I could have done a little bit better than that even. That's on Bet Online. What do I have written down? I had written down something.
No, you could have only done worse. This is the best it's been. Yeah, you could have only done worse. It's such, dude, I'm with you. It's such a good line. I'm going to hit that after the show, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I had circled for you to kind of talk me into. What's your view on this fight? I'm thinking Sholinian Nuerdanbieke inside the distance is my prediction for this fight. I think a TKO is live, especially in round 2. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to pick a side. I would just take the under in this spot. Both guys are live for the finish. What's your strategy here?
So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna play the under. I did play Sholinian early. I played him for a unit money line, and then I parlayed him with Almeida. So now it's just 2 units money line. I do think Derek Minner is live. I do, but also, I know you're a lot like me. You listen to other content creators. You listen to other shows. You said you do it when you drive. I do it when I vacuum my house because I'm a psycho and I vacuum every single day. And there's 2 shows that really helped me with this, right? First off, our guys at Stats Diggers. Shout out Wheezy and Brady. Always killing it. You guys all know them. 60 finishes between the 2 of them. 60 finishes. That's insane. And we're getting the under 2.5 at minus 130. I understand it's been finishes not at UFC level necessarily, but oh my goodness.
Yeah, when you put it like that, I kind of, I forgot about that. I mean, this is at featherweight as well, and these guys are not that old. 28 years old for Sholinian Nuerdanbieke, 32 for Minner. And yeah, Sholinian Nuerdanbieke has got 18 knockouts, 10 submissions. That's pretty insane.
And, you have to think about it, right? Like Derek Minner has bad cardio. So that's just another setup for a fight doesn't go. There's so many factors here that are pointing to the fight not going, which is why the fight's going to go and we're going to lose all our money. But it's a play I'm going to make. The other thing I wanted to bring up was I listened to Clint all the time, my guy, Diehard MMA, literally the first show I ever watched. He had John on. I'm not remembering his last name. He does all the interviews. Him and James Lynch are killing it all the time. And he was talking about his interview with Sholinian. And Sholinian was just talking about how he wants to finish here. He wants to show what he is. And at the end of the day, we have one guy who's young here and one guy who's older here. One guy on his way in, growing, and one guy on his way out. So I do like Sholinian. I'm a little concerned about my bet. I do think Derek Minner's sub is live. We've seen him almost get it on pretty much everybody. Like even the guys he's lost to, like Grant Dawson, he still got very, very close. So you can't go too crazy, but I think Sholinian's a safe bet. And I did want to say this is probably going to be a round 3 play for me. I think I'm going to play Sholinian round 3 or Sholinian round 3 KO. I'm looking at it right now. It's like plus 1,000 for just the round 3. For KO, it's
what's generally your strategy for this? Like, say there's a couple of options, not even just for the round 3, but just like in a fight like this where one guy's got pretty much his money line is like a submission for Derek Minner. It's pretty much his money line, right? Because he's not going to win a decision generally. And you got a money line bet on Sholinian. Would you hedge that out with like the win condition, like a round 1, like a juicy round 1 sub for Derek Minner, or would you just hedge that with the under?
So you know me, Pat. That's actually exactly what I normally do. If I'm heavy on a play and I feel like one person has a clear like winning way, like a way to win.
Yeah.
Like
See,
Derek
I'm always
Minner
concerned about
sub.
like losing both bets. Then, like, what if Derek Minner wins? And then
that's
by
the
decision.
Key.
You know,
that's the key. We have to deal with variance. We have to deal with all this stuff. That's why I'm careful. Normally, I prefer to hedge out like that when it's a heavier bet. 2 units. You know, like, will I be sad if he loses me 2 units? Of course I will. Am I going to survive? Yeah, I'm going to survive. I'll be okay. So like, yeah, I mean, I just really like I don't like betting power punchers. I don't know about you. I don't like betting guys who will lose every minute until they find the punch. And I'm the same way with submissions. I don't like betting on people who are going to be on their back until they maybe get a sub, you know?
Yeah, both are extremely frustrating. You see a power puncher like, I don't know, the number 1 of all time, like Derek Lewis, like not do anything until he does. You know, I mean, that guy is more of a, you know, you can play that with Derek Lewis, but anybody else that's at lower weight class where they don't have that death touch and you're just waiting for them to maybe do something and they're losing every second. I hate that. Same with the guys like you mentioned where they're, you know, on their back looking for a triangle, looking for a Kimura, looking for a sweep, and they're just losing every second of the round. And it repeats itself in round 2 and round 3. The worst way to lose a bet. So, yeah, I generally don't bank on those people either. Yeah, no, we got some other people. MMA Propaholic liking the under in that fight as well. And we got Justin giving you props for your lung capacity here, of course. And
yo, if you don't have a volcano, get one.
Strickland's Burner in the house saying, what's good? Always good to have you, Strickland's Burner. Shout out to all 18 of you guys in the live chat. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and go in the description and subscribe to my guy Mike at CouchWarriorPod on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter. And Mike puts out bets, like free bets, and early ones. You beat the line movement with him on every fight promotion.
I'm putting out regional bets at 4 a.m.
Yeah, this guy does not sleep, and he bets on everything you can possibly get a line on combat sports-wise. So amazing. And Jenna Marie, of course. Shout out to Clint. I got to get that guy on the pod. As far as the guys that you mentioned, I'll be having DFS Brady on next week to break down the pay-per-view as well. So that'll be fun. First time having him on. And I think the first time ever breaking down a fight with Brady as well. So excited to chop it up with him next week.
That's sick.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, man.
Brady's one of those guys who was like, sorry, that was like one of the first people I watched, like him and Clint.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was for me. It was Clint. Of course, his show is one of the more popular ones, Die Hard MMA podcast. And he was on odds with all the guys that we like.
That's what we were talking about, yeah.
Yeah, like Manpreet, whose show I did last week, Bleed and MMA Prediction Guru. Those guys are all fun. But yeah, are we on the main card at this point now? Is this where we're at?
I think so.
Mark Madsen taking on Grant Dawson. I like this fight, and there's another bet I want to get talked onto here because I like Mark Madsen a little bit. I was waiting for it to hit plus 200 for Mark Madsen, the underdog. Grant Dawson can be ahead right around, minus 230 at this point? Yeah, it's teetering right there. BetOnline's got a minus 230 Grant Dawson, plus 195. The Olympian Mark Madsen. At 155, man, I got to say, I'm not impressed with Grant Dawson that much. He did cash a round 3 knockout bet for me a while back. I can't remember which year that was. When he knocked out Leonardo Santos at the last possible second, I cashed in that round 3 knockout. And I've had a soft spot for Grant Dawson ever since. And the guy's got a good record. He's, 6-0 and 1 draw in the UFC. But, man, like that draw against Ricky Glenn is one of those glaring spots where this guy can fall apart in round 3. He can look for takedowns without setting it up at all, just desperately dive at people's crotches looking for takedowns. And if he ends up on bottom, that's how he starts losing the fight. That's where he got his draw from. So Mark Madsen's the guy who is kind of the opposite, right? He's only had 4 fights in the UFC, 2 are against older guys, but nothing should say that he, is not in shape at 38 years old. I mean, he took a break in his MMA career to go into the Olympics a second time, get that silver medal in Greco-Roman wrestling. He's undefeated at 12-0, and I really do think he could edge out a decision here because his cardio doesn't look that bad anymore. He had one kind of bad performance at this weight class, but now he's winning round 3s, right? He won the round 3 that he needed to win it against Vince Pichel in his last fight. Grant Dawson, I could just see giving up position here and just falling on his back and losing minutes. So I got to favor the striking of Grant Dawson, the experience and the youth. But for Mark Madsen, I think the wrestling is interesting here because I've never seen Grant Dawson win a fight solely with his striking before. So what do you think about a live dog and Mark Madsen getting the decision victory here?
So I'll tell you this. First off, I love Mushroom. He's thinking like I'm thinking. We were talking about this before the show, Pat. I mentioned it. And I mentioned it on my own show the other day. I feel like it's something we have to recognize. Just because you're an Olympic wrestler doesn't mean it's always going to translate against MMA wrestling.
Certainly.
Here's a great example. Cormier, John Jones. One of them was an Olympic wrestler. One of them wasn't. Both got takedowns. Obviously, this is no John Jones over here in Dawson.
It's a tough comparison. I get your point. That's a tough comparison, but I do get your point.
I do think, it's way off, but you get what I'm saying.
I get your point.
Dawson, I think, is going to be able to wear on Madsen. Dawson, I think, will be able to get takedowns. I think Madsen will also get takedowns. We've seen Dawson get taken down before, 40% takedown defense. I do want to put an asterisk there. I looked into it. He's given up only 3 takedowns in 8 UFC fights.
It's not too many people, right? I think it's been like 2 people, right?
3. So it was Adrian Diaz 2017, Derek Minner 2020, and Leonardo Santos 2021. And I don't think he gave up much control time in any of those. So can Madsen take him down? I think he will. I don't think he can. I think he will. I just don't think he's going to necessarily hold him down. In the striking, I think low-key, like technique for technique, I think it low-key goes to Madsen, actually. But Dawson's bigger, longer. I'm guessing here. I think he's stronger. I feel like on the feet, he'll be able to hang. I think round 1 probably will go to Madsen. But after that, I think Dawson's going to pick it up and win. I played him minus 230 for 2.3 units. But I think this is one of the best underdog bets on the card if you're going to make it. I don't think it's a bad bet at all.
And we're looking at, so a lot of the bookies are not having Mark Madsen by decision at that much different than like his money line, right? We're looking at Mark Madsen by decision on BetOnline at plus 225 when his money line is close to that right now at plus 195. They dropped the prop for that recently on FanDuel. Finally, they're late to drop their props, but when FanDuel does, it's goofy. He's plus 260 on decision prop for Mark Madsen on FanDuel. I like that spot. I might actually end up hitting that, to be honest with you, because I favor Grant Dawson the way you do, but if he doesn't conserve his energy in rounds 1 and 2, he's going to give up round 3 and just end up on bottom. He'll dive recklessly for a takedown. He doesn't set up, and he'll risk being on bottom for 4 minutes, of a 5-minute round. Just lose it based on that aspect alone.
You know what I just thought of, Pat?
I don't know. He's just so untested. But yeah, what other
have
thoughts
you have you ever hit the? I don't know if Bovada. Do you have BetOnline?
Yeah.
So you've seen the spread bets, right? Like the minus plus 3.5. I feel like this might be a good spot for Madsen, right?
Minus 190. Minus 190 for him just to win 29-28 or I'm sorry, to lose 29-28.
That's what it says?
Yep, minus 190 for Mark Madsen.
I kind of like that. Because then you win if he wins, and you can still win if he loses. I don't personally see a 30-27 here. So I might hop on there as a little hedge.
Yeah, that's not bad for minus 190. Just for him to make it a competitive enough. So if you guys don't know what he's talking about on BetOnline and maybe another book, they have what you see. It's like a spread that you would see in like a sport like football or basketball, right? It's plus or minus 3.5 points. So the underdog, Mark Madsen, is going to be assigned plus 3.5 points. So in a 3-round fight, it's going to be If Mark Madsen wins this fight by any means, he gets the decision, or he even wins, losing, if he even loses, but he gets one round. So if he doesn't get shut out on all three judges' scorecards, Mark Madsen would win. If there's a 30-27 Dawson, 30-27 Dawson, and then a 29-28 Madsen, I really do think that, or even a 29-28 for Grant Dawson. So if one judge gives a round to Mark Madsen, he would win that plus 3.5 bet. It's kind of confusing, but you can look up how that is, and it kind of makes sense on the odds when you see it because we're paying money for that. They think it's going to be a competitive fight, right? It's minus 190 for that prop. So that's a good way to hedge that bet if you're on Dawson.
We just convinced me. I'm going to play it.
Yeah, and he could also, and then Madsen could also go in there and, Dawson could twist his knee. He could get the double Cater syndrome, twist both of his knees off, and he would win that bet as well. So, yeah.
I'm so tired of injuries, man.
It's just a joke at this point. When that happened, I literally I kind of just laughed it off. I was like, oh, this is just not.
It's usually we get one per year. We get a Tony Ferguson falling over a wire. We get random things, but I mean, this is just getting ridiculous.
Well, I saw it in pairs. I broke this down in the recap. I saw it earlier this year. We had at your event in Long Island that you were at. It was Brian Ortega's shoulder, and then the very next week it was Tom Aspinall's knee. Now last week it was TJ Dillashaw's shoulder. Then the following week it's the knee. So I said next time I see a shoulder pop out, I'm just waiting to see whose knee is going to explode in the following week. You know what I mean? So,
bro, I brought my dad to that card. It was the first time he's ever been to a UFC fight.
He's like, why is this long-haired pussy down on the ground there?
He was, and that card was dope. Honestly, there were a lot of finishes. The buildup was great. They kind of killed it, making Lemos Waterson the co-main event. Even with the sub, it just wasn't. It was
exciting though, right?
It kind of just killed the vibe in the stadium.
Did it?
And then by the time Ortega and Yair came out, we were a bit more hyped up, and then it just ended, and everybody was just sick.
Yeah, that's never fun. It's always awkward. I've been there a couple times in main events. I'm trying to think of a few key ones I've been to live that have ended in. Trying to think. Anderson Silva versus Patrick Cote back in 2008. I was there, and they were just squaring off. Silva was putting on a clinic for 3 rounds. I think it was in round 3 or 4. Patrick Cote just fainted, like he was going to do something, and his knee just slid. Then you could barely even see what happened. He just fell over, and we're like, what, did Anderson Silva just kill him with his death glare or something? What happened?
How old were you then, Pat? You were mad young then, no? You're literally a few years older than me.
I was 15. Yeah.
So you've been watching for a minute.
Yeah, the first one I went to was UFC 48 back in the day. I was in 5th grade for that one, seeing fucking Kimo Leopoldo and Ken Shamrock. That was the first UFC I went to, and I've been to a ton. But yeah, I don't know. I think I might have to get to this bet on Madsen by decision. I might do it. You got another chance to talk me out of it, man. Talk me out of it. Is he too old? Now we're talking about injuries. Is he gonna hurt himself at 38?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think it's probably Dawson, but now I've completely talked myself onto this Madsen spread. I think I love it now. I feel like I really don't see a 30-27, and that's how you win this bet. So I'm like, we're going to get off the show. I'm going to go put too much money on it.
All right, there we go. All right, so you're not talking me off of it too much there. Maybe I'll just join you on that plus 3.5 round handicap prop. Maybe I'll just do that. That's not that bad of a prop. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. But yeah, I'm liking the FanDuel plus 260 Grant Mark Madsen by points, because that kind of is his win condition. How many times do you see him? What about the fight ends in round 3? That's a prop I had circled for this one. Do you have any books that offer that? Because both guys have had a history. At least we've seen a bad history of them gassing out in round 3 on a couple of occasions on each side.
So New York's a bitch with that kind of thing. We got legalized sports betting, but for some reason, certain props, I can't bet split decisions. I can't bet stuff like that. So unfortunately, I can't hit this. I think round 3, fight to end in round 3 is pretty good because both of these guys have cardio issues. I personally think Dawson can get a round 3 finish. And there's a lot of really smart guys in the space who think Madsen can get a round 3 finish. So fight ends in round 3. You don't care who wins it. I kind of like it for a sprinkle.
Yeah, I don't care about who wins it. I don't care about the method. Maybe that's a spot too. I do have that written down. But moving further up the main card, we do have somebody I'm not too fond of recently, and I have won a decent amount of money on him, but just barely, and that's Tagir Ulanbekov at flyweight, taking on Nate Maness. And yeah, it's a spot where Nate Maness is now making his debut at flyweight. This is he definitely looks like he's made the physical change and dropped an extra 10 pounds. I don't know where it came from, but you can see his face look very gaunt at the media day today. A decent record for Nate Maness. He's 14-2. But yeah, coming off of a loss where he got basically, laid on for 3 rounds, the same way that Tagir is going to look to do the exact same strategy. So that's the problem we're looking at. But Tagir Ulanbekov, man, before I let you kick this off, Mike, I just want to say this guy has not been great at covering his money line convincingly. Like a minus 455 over Bruno Silva, and winning 29-28 in a fight that he was looked to be dominating. Like he was supposed to dominate that fight. Comes in and 2 rounds to 1, just barely. Minus 400 over Nascimento is where I really jumped off of his money train because I had him parlayed up that night, and it was the first fight of the night, man, and it was super close. A split decision for a minus 400, and now he was minus 250 over Tim Elliott and lost by decision. So a guy who I really need to watch him without betting on him to see him win back the favor of his minus odds. So. What do you think about this fight as a whole? Do you see a spot where Nate Maness could win this fight at a new weight class?
Look, I don't think so. I think Maness is making a mistake. Look at Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker made the weight way before it was time. He showed he could do it. And then what happened? His chin was absolutely gone. The guy went 5 rounds with Dustin Poirier, and all of a sudden Arnold Allen is killing him in round 1. Weight cuts are a real thing. These are big guys. Nate Maness should not be going down here. We just saw him get rocked by Gravely. Like, why? You're winning fights in bantamweight. You lost to Umar. Like, it's all good, bro. You lost to Umar. Like,
yeah, that's not something you change your life over. Like that guy's supposed to be.
Yeah, I think that's silly. I mean, do I think Ulanbekov can out wrestle Maness like Umar did? No. I don't think so. Do I think he can win minutes with the wrestling? I do. Do I think I can trust Maness? No, I don't. Who's the better striker? It's close, probably Maness. But again, how's it going to translate here? And in my opinion, like we saw Tagir lose to Tim Elliott, right? But what does Tim Elliott do so well that these Dagestani guys struggle with? His takedown defense and his own offensive wrestling.
He's so good at man, he was not only defending takedowns, but then ending up on top himself, like switching it up.
Oscarov, do you remember that fight?
I do.
Oscarov didn't get a single takedown. Tim got 3. Oscarov won, but he had to strike.
Tim Elliott is so unorthodox, man. He's fun to watch. He's just like talking shit as he's doing it too. He's a savage.
And he's got some of the best counter grappling in the game. Like, you can't deny it. So I don't think Maness has that same ability to scramble, to defend. Again, it's all going to depend on this weight cut. So I don't suggest anyone bet this with a lot of money. I did minus 190 to Gear for 2 units. I think I don't think you should bet more than that, but that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it because it's a spot that you've seen before, but you understand like how I'm annoyed. Maybe it's just my own personal bias. I'm just annoyed. Like I had a bet that almost didn't cash, like a lot of money on, I think that was the Abu Dhabi card, UFC 267, the one from last October.
And he was losing off his back. That's the craziest
thing. Yeah, he was
thing.
losing off his back, eating elbows
Nascimento was winning off his back.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Yeah, he's taking damage from the top position. Was Tagir Ulanbekov,
and that's
making it razor close. Yeah, it was terrible. Like they were reading off the score. It's like I got mimosas lined up because it was an early card in Abu Dhabi. I'm like, this is the first fight of the night. It's supposed to be an easy leg cash on this parlay. I was like sweating it, dude.
It's always mimosas. Like that, bro. Remember how much money I had on Mokaev? Do you remember when Gordon took his back? Yeah. I left the room. I got up and I left the room. I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm going to have a broken TV like Brady after he watched Vidal.
Just raising the blood pressure, man. Raising the blood pressure. Years off of our life for sure. Shout out to Prince of Mischief saying like and subscribe to all 17 of you guys breaking down this somewhat of a lackluster card, but the more that me and Mike break into it, the more fun it kind of is. There's a lot of question marks on a lot of people here. So yeah, I mean, I am on the Nate Maness side. Like when I made my official pick, I'm not betting it, but just to make a pick, it was Nate Maness to win. Just again, kind of like Nascimento, not that he could copy that game plan or copy a Tim Elliott game plan, but at least make it close. The problem is that weight cut going down to 125. I like the power. I like the striking of Nate Maness. But is that power going to be diminished? This is durability, his strength to stop a takedown. Is that going to be diminished? Probably. There's a good chance that's going to happen. So not a spot where I want to back a guy at 5'10", making another weight cut. This guy used to fight at lightweight. He fought at lightweight pre-UFC. He's making his weight cut down to 125. Insane. So I just want to see Tagir Ulanbekov do something impressive and get back to, looking like a minus 190 favorite should look and do it dominantly. So give me Nate Maness as a pick here as an underdog where the value I think falls, but no, probably not going to make a bet on this. But I did see who shouted this one out. Was it Propaholic? Yeah, I did have this written down. They dropped it today on FanDuel. Nate by decision is plus 500. I think everywhere else he's like plus 300. So that is a spot where if Tagir makes this close again, look. But that's probably like where that should be lined anyways, right? Plus 500 is like where that should be lined.
It's just like, it's kind of like you literally just mentioned why you probably shouldn't bet that, because is he going to do the same thing as Nascimento from his back? No, he'll try to be active, but he's not going to do the same thing. Nascimento's high-level shoot box fighter. I'm blanking. Who was the other guy?
Tim Elliott?
Yeah, and he, like I said,
that's a hard game plan for anybody.
I don't think he can do what Tim Elliott did. So
yeah. This is exactly right. Mushroom knows the Always Sunny references and the Seinfeld references. This is my favorite show of all time is Seinfeld. Serenity now. Serenity now. Just shouting, this is my bet is a split decision. That's what I was yelling last week when Kelvin Cater, turned it into a losing night for me.
Oh, man.
I went parlay crazy last week, Mike. If you didn't see, I just went insane with it, and it was the Cater knees and the Jacoby decision cost me. So,
bro, I didn't even watch live because it was my birthday that night, and
that's right.
I rewatched the Jacoby fight, and I was just like, why'd you do this to me? You just took like 6 units from me on Peter Yan, and then you got to violate my life and just come on. It's
crazy. I never like scream robbery on decisions like that. Like I'm not even going to scream robbery on that one because the judging literally by the documents can be very subjective. Like I can get almost any result when it's that close. But that one wasn't even that close. Like, that
I think it is?
As far as like top 10, like shocked I've been for a decision, that was up there probably.
I think they've really been pushing in like the judging courses and whatnot. I think recently they've been really pushing this damage thing because you even hear the commentary team talking about it now. I forget which fight it was, but they were scoring it for somebody based off damage. And like, that just shows you that's what people are looking at right now. And it seems like that's what the judges are looking like at. Even the Peter Yan fight, right? Who looked more injured? Peter Yan did.
Yeah, well, so judging damage can be very subjective, is what I'm talking about. Like it can be based off of does the guy look like he's lost like the spirit to fight, or like the ability? Does he start getting backed up after he gets hit? But also lacerations and swelling count as damage as well. So one judge probably did see that. He was like, well, that did more effective damage, right? But it was just so few and far between. Like does one big knee or one big elbow or one big overhand right make up for 3 minutes of getting touched up? Like I don't know. So it's one big moment, but if it doesn't lead to a knockdown or like diminishment and you're advancing forward, I don't know if I count it as damage so much. But like I said, it's very, very subjective. And that's something I do watch. I do watch like a lot of the athletic commissions, like the videos they put out publicly of like how they train officials. Like I watch those. Yeah. Like I try to get like a gist of like what I'm watching. And if it adds to an edge betting wise, I try to look at it. But it's so subjective that like the 3 judges that we get, one guy might be watching that. The other 2 guys might see it a different way. So
it's the angles, right? If you've ever been live to the fights, you could recognize that fights look different when you're right. And I've never been cage side. I can only imagine if you're on one side, you're probably missing a lot, right? They don't have screens.
I've watched a lot of regional like stuff around the area, like amateur fights and professional fights, like cage side. It does look a lot different and sound a lot different. But
you have any idea why they don't give them the screens that they give the commentary?
I don't know.
That would make a lot of sense, right?
Any way to increase their visibility would make sense to me. But
real quick, I wanted to answer Strickland's burner. I think he's talking about me. This other guy have a YouTube.
Oh yeah, look in the description, man.
At CouchWarriorPodcast, baby.
Of course. And where can people find you? On Twitter as well?
If you want my bets as soon as I make them, it's Twitter you want, at CouchWarriorPod. I'm literally posting late at night. I'm an idiot. I don't sleep. I love MMA, guys.
You won't be disappointed. This guy, you get bets where no other handicapper is making bets that early on all, like I said, promotional stuff out, ACA out in Russia. He's taping and giving content on YouTube to LFA. You won't be disappointed subscribing to my guy, Mike.
Appreciate you guys.
Of course, man. Moving on to the people's main event at heavyweight. We've got Josh Parisian taking on Chase Sherman. And what started as a pick'em is now moving into the favor of Chase Sherman, who is, what is he now, like a minus 120 favorite in this spot, I want to say. Let me look at one of the books here. Yeah, minus 132 on BetOnline, plus 112 for Josh Parisian, the underdog. I mean, this is just as sloppy as it gets, dude. Like, I like the size of Josh Parisian. I like his ability to kind of like weather the early storm and then just bum rush his opponents against the cage, eventually get him down. Like, I feel like that fits into the weakness of Chase Sherman, who is going to be looking for an early finish here and then probably not win a decision if it goes past a certain part. So just based off of that merit alone, coupled with him being the underdog, I'll take Josh Parisian, but I'm not getting anywhere on this fight, to be honest with you. Like, the unders will be the only way I would play this. Do you have any strong case for the favorite in this spot?
I don't have a strong case, but you should probably call the orderlies, because I did play Chase Sherman here. I played him at minus 110, I think, for 1.1 unit. And look, I just think it's funny. We have such a short memory span, right? Like, I just pulled it up. Chase Sherman closed at plus 198 to Jared Vanderaa, and now we have him as a favorite just because he won his last fight.
Yeah, it's part of the problem here. And that was only because he finally found somebody. Like, we thought that Chase Sherman was the bottom of the barrel, and we thought that Jared Vanderaa was like maybe a small step above that. But it turns out, no, Chase Sherman is one step above the bottom of the barrel and got that round 3 knockout, right? So, yeah, I mean, you're totally right. You should be looking, guys, like if you're looking at bets and you're looking at money lines, you should be looking at the history of how these guys were lined before to judge if you're getting a good number or not. But go on with your case for Chase Sherman here. I want to learn something.
For me, it just comes down to, like, look, Jake Collier got him down with a double, right? If I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure it was the double. What's his face? Parisian doesn't shoot double legs. He does not. He uses trips. He uses his weight, pushes against you, and he brings you down. Like, the Chad
did he get a double leg on Alain Baudot, or did he just like bum rush him and just like topple him over? Like,
I don't remember. But it's
sometimes with heavyweights, it's like they aim to like do what they practice in the gym, and then it just becomes some sloppy thing where like one guy just pushes the other guy over.
Did you watch the Parisian Chad Johnson fight?
Yes,
bro. Do you remember? Yes. Chad Johnson was like hurting him, and then I forget what happened. He slipped or threw a kick or something, and just falls on his back.
Yeah, I mean, that's just typical heavyweights. They're like Humpty Dumpty, like anything that's under like the top 3 people at heavyweight, they're just like Humpty Dumpty. You don't know what's going to happen. They're just going to fall over and, something stupid's going to happen.
So because of all that, I just think that at the end of the day, the better striker is Chase Sherman, more straight with the strikes. The output is similar. He's hitting that 100 mark way more often than Parisian, who did it only one time against Porter. And I also think the camps are important. I think the camps are very important. Chase Sherman's at my favorite camp. He's at Sanford MMA, Kill Cliff. I'm never going to call it that. Parisian, what do I have in my notes? I don't even remember. Scorpion Fighting System, but I couldn't confirm that on Instagram, so I'm not even positive about that. So those little things made me comfortable at minus 110. I felt that it was the furthest thing from a safe bet, but I thought it was an okay bet. But now he's like minus 130. I don't think that's a great idea. Should I grow a goatee? Man, I could try. I'll never get there. It takes me forever.
I see the outline of one going on right now. You're getting close.
It won't get any better. It'll just like grow like a little bit here, and that's it.
Dude, so any props stand out to you on this one? Like any like long shot, like big money props that would make me play this fight in any certain way?
Nah, I don't.
Not really.
So. Maybe if you like Parisian, maybe Parisian round 3.
I don't like Parisian at all.
Just because I'm a sucker for that, but nah.
If I would play Parisian, I'd play him like in round probably round 2. By round 3, the issue is like I don't think either guy will have a chance to like have any energy. Like I think both, if it goes to round 3, I think both guys are going to be just dead tired here.
Yeah, I think the smart thing here is go get a drink while the fight's happening, or maybe some food.
Yeah, man,
I don't think you should be betting it.
I'm going to watch it because it's going to be comedy. You know, I think you should have the drink and food on deck to watch
Pure
this fight.
comedy. That's true. That's true.
It's going to be great because Josh Parisian's just like so fat and sloppy at 265.5 pounds.
We hate on low-level heavyweight, but like if you think about it,
I love it.
We have like this little circle of like just amazing like comedy. Chris Barnett, Jake Collier, Josh Parisian, Alan Badeau, Jared Vandera, Chase Sherman. I mean, all of these guys could beat each other on any given day, and it's just comedy every single time.
That's the compelling part, is why they keep them around and put them on the main card, though, is because any guy could beat the other at any given time. And the issue is even more dangerous than that, because, like, remember Alan Badeau in the last fight against Parisian? Like, he, like, knocked him down, like, toppled him over, was pounding on his face, and then just, like, ran out of steam and ended up getting finished in the next part of the fight.
I bet Badeau there, and I felt so confident, man.
That's what I imagine could happen to Chase Sherman, though. If he doesn't get the job done decisively in round 1. I'll give you this question for Chase Sherman, though. He seems fired up. He seems motivated after his round 3 knockout of Jared Vandera. Do you think he's turned a leaf in his career? Do you think he's more improved in this fight? Do you think he's making improvements?
So something I would love to know, if anyone knows, is when did Sherman move to Sanford MMA, right? If he's been at Sanford this whole time, even when he was like looking terrible, then you know, I'm not really believing he's looking that good. At the end of the day, Vandera's not that great either. Vandera just lost to Waldo Cortez Acosta, who I also think isn't great at all.
No.
I think he's going to be in that lower level I was just talking about. So
if they hit the mat, it'll be the loudest thud of the car.
Yeah, I think if we do hit the mat, Parisian's going to break this guy's face in, but
good Lord.
It's just a question of that.
Don't forget Jake Collier.
Sherman does have good takedown defense. That's another thing I saw. 66%. He's had a lot of UFC fights.
Yeah, he has. He's had 2 separate stints in the UFC. Neither of them have gone extremely well. I think
3 now, Pat.
Technically 3. He technically 3, right? And I think all of his 10 losses in the UFC, I want to say, because he's 16-10. I think all 10 of them are in the UFC, except for maybe there's one early in his career that he lost outside.
Got it exactly right. He lost one outside. I just counted it while you were saying this. Yeah,
I think all other 9 are in the UFC. So that's extreme. Yeah, because he wins everything else. Even on his break, he won like every fight outside of the UFC.
You know what?
Comes back in and loses.
The losses aren't terrible either. Justin Ledet, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. Walt Harris, though, not that terrible. Shamil Abdurakhimov, not that terrible. Justin Willis, terrible. Augusto Sakai, okay. Arlovsky does Arlovsky things. Porter, he's a legend. Fought John Jones. He's going to be champion.
Wasn't Justin Willis's nickname like Big Titty or something?
I did not know. Big Pretty.
I think somebody called him Big Titty. I think somebody was like dissing him. But anyways, Big Titty should be like Josh Parisian's nickname.
But yeah, either way, Sherman's losses aren't terrible. Most of them are better than Parisian is. This is just a low-level fight. That's what it comes down to.
Does Josh Parisian even have a nickname? I don't think he does.
I don't think
he has a nickname. No, I'm looking at his Tapology. It's just Josh Parisian. I think he's just better off without a nickname. He's still trying to find himself at 33 years old.
Okay, if I was like, Pat, right now, 5 seconds, nickname for Parisian, go. 5.
I said 4. Big Titty was the one. Josh, Big Titty Parisian.
I think I'd call him Refrigerator.
For Josh the Fridge Parisian.
Yeah, I like that.
That's not bad. I call him the Pantry. He probably
even better.
Badass. All right. Anyways, moving on. I wonder if he's gonna. It's gonna be Josh Parisian and Nate Maness missing weight. That's what it's gonna be. And Ramona Pascual. Those 3 are gonna miss weight. Yeah, not a bad thought there. But we've got a fun co-main event up next between Neil Magny and Daniel Rodriguez. And I'll let you kick this one off, Mike, at 170. I do have a bet on Neil Magny. I like him. I got 2 units on him at minus 115. I'm upset it's not the plus 100 I had in the last time this was booked, but I like Magny's experience in this fight. But I'll let you break this one down for the co-main event. Are you on Daniel Rodriguez, who's the slight underdog?
Nah, this one won't be fun. We're on the same page.
Okay.
I also played Magny last time as a dog. I played him again this time, minus 119, 2 units. Look, D-Rod is great. I love him. His striking is so good. But Magny's incredible at mixing things up and implementing his game plan. He's training up in Denver, as far as I know. I don't think it's elevation. I think he's at high altitude, if I'm correct. But I just feel I like betting on the person who has more weapons. D-Rod has his boxing, and that's all he's got. It's great, but that's it. Magny can keep his distance. He's got an 80-inch reach at this is welterweight, right? 80-inch reach is long. He does use that jab. Who's got the clinch advantage? I think it's Magny. Who's got the wrestling advantage? I think it's Magny. So at the end of the day, it's hard for me not to take Neil Magny here, and I like the line quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I mean, the experience is insane between these two, and unless there's like a huge like blanket grappler, matchup in front of Neil Magny, he does pretty well, right? And I know D-Rod has some BJJ credentials, but it's not like a big wrestler. It's the boxing, and I give him the power. I give him the close-up boxing advantage here, but Neil Magny is very unproven at people at the level and the craftiness with all the weapons that Neil Magny has. And, Magny decision is definitely the play, right? He wins most of the time by decision. He's, Magny by points. He's 16-2 in decisions. So makes sense. But the bookies are all over that too, right? Like he's, I think it's not even that much more than his money line. It's like plus 120, plus 125 by points. Whereas his money line is right at minus 115, minus 120.
I feel like the lesson was taught in 280 with Bilal getting that knockout. That if it is close, if it's close, just play the money line. If it's
like
close,
you really gotta. We forget sometimes we like these plus numbers, but it's really got to transform the money line. So if it's already close to a pick'em price tag for Neil Magny at minus 115, like don't take that plus 120 by decision. Like it's a few extra dollars. You know what I mean? Like it's 35 extra bucks. Like you're not really saving yourself that much.
Pat, I do want to ask you though, what do you think of the D-Rod sub at plus 1,200? That's what he got on Tim Means. I think it was his debut. And Magny, at the end of the day, he's going to be sticking his neck out if he's wrestling, right?
I think it's priced appropriately because I don't see it happening.
Unlikely, right?
Yeah, because I don't see it being that likely. So I don't think that should be any less or any more than that. You know what I mean? So I would have to see him probably getting dropped by something. Like a Max Griffin style, knockdown in round 1, and then he jumps on the neck immediately. I think it's pretty unlikely, but that's how I would see it playing out, pretty early than later. Because I think if this goes late in round 2 and round 3, it's going to be Neil Magny just beating him up with unorthodox striking at range, and then just pushing him into the clinch position, winning those battles there pretty decisively. And we're not paying a big price. Like we've got a really experienced guy, probably more experienced than anybody currently at welterweight, and you're getting him for a pick'em price tag. So I like it a lot. I'm going to take advantage of it. And just hoping that Neil Magny at 35 years old and this many fights is not like, not that he's like accelerated his aging process. We're like, because he does seem like he should be like 40 by now. He's been in the UFC since like 2013 or so.
Fight
a million fights. Yeah. So he's 19-8 in the UFC, fought everybody, lost to the best of them, beat everybody else. Give me that. We're seeing a lot of love for Magny in the chat, especially my guy Dev the Dude. Check him out on YouTube. My guy Dev the Dude always put in early work on YouTube. They already did a breakdown for the pay-per-view next week, so go check that out. They're putting in that early work. This is an interesting look here. Magny live bet after round 1 from MMA Propaholic. You're just hoping that D-Rod does his best work with the boxing early, and then maybe getting a better number on Magny, perhaps. What do you think about that, Mike?
I feel like it might be opposite. I feel like if anything, you're going to get a better line on D-Rod after round 1 because Magny, I don't see him losing round 1 at a high clip. I mean, everything we said, like they're going to be dry. The wrestling's going to be way easier. If anything, I think it's going to be D-Rod picking it up late. So that's why
I think that's more based off of like the thought process that this goes similarly to Max Griffin, right? Like he gets like hurt early. D-Rod has the better, crisper striking, more power in his punches early. Does some solid work damage-wise, like we were talking about early on Neil Magny, wins that one, and you get a better price on Magny going into round 2. I could see that being a possibility there, so it's something to look at. It's something to look at.
Has D-Rod fought anyone like Neil Magny?
No.
The closest I would say is Kevin Lee, but then we saw Kevin Lee go to Eagle FC and have a close fight with freaking Diego Sanchez.
And this was Kevin Lee that was like right towards that was the last fight in the UFC, right?
Yep.
I want to say.
He went up to welterweight for that fight and then left.
Yeah, that was his last fight in the UFC. So that was like the worst end of Kevin Lee, but I think you're right. That was like probably the best name with the best skill set somewhere deep in his prime, but he was kind of past his prime at that point. So yeah, I'm liking Magny here. I don't really hate anybody taking D-Rod, but I think you would have to be banking on like a diminishing in the skills of Magny to make that like your case. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're picking D-Rod, like you're really depending on his takedown defense, and I just don't think we've seen it tested enough to be confident there.
And then going back to like when we're comparing money lines now versus like before, not that it's a crazy price on D-Rod. He is the slight underdog here, but everybody was screaming at UFC 279 about how he lost that fight to Li Jingliang, that he won the decision. Yeah. Like I saw so many people that had D-Rod, like losing that fight. And now he's, everybody's darling here. I don't know. I think he's rather untested, and I haven't seen him against somebody with the skill set of Neil Magny. So
I think a lot of people
couple units on him.
I think a lot of people are kind of salty on Magny because he got that Max Griffin decision. I had Griffin there. A lot of us felt we won. And like I mentioned this earlier, as a community, MMA gamblers, we're very emotional sometimes, very short-term memory. Yeah. So I feel like that could be affecting this as well.
I'm always like on the side that whenever I see a decision, I'm just like, oh, fuck, my bet lost. He lost. Like whenever I've got a bet on somebody, like I'm watching it from like their opponent's perspective, like just seeing like everything that they're throwing like my guy's way. Like that's just, I don't know why I watch fights that way. Like what a shitty existence that is. Cause I always feel like I'm losing the fight.
I'm similar, but for a different reason. Cause I believe in jinx. So I'm like, I'm convinced if I say this guy's going to win, he's going to get murked. So I just don't say anything. What a
what a horrible existence that I kind of thought that way, but then I got on YouTube and started giving out advice, and I'm like,
that's another thing, right?
I can't believe in it anymore. Like
that's why I didn't want to give picks for the longest time. I was like, Mike, you're gonna give picks, and they're all gonna lose because you said them.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. You win some, you lose some, but we have made our way to the main event of the evening at women's 115. This is actually a really high level fight, but just pause here, you guys, and go follow the links and subscribe to my guy, Mike, at CouchWarriorPod, who's blessed us with his insight, his knowledge, and his time. And go follow him on Twitter as well. He gives out great picks very early. And hit the like and hit the subscribe on my channel if you guys are new. It's going to be a lot of more fun picks coming up next weekend for UFC 281. Stacked card. I know this one is a little bit lackluster, but I'm excited for every time there's UFC fights. I would watch any level in the UFC, to be honest with you. If it was just two bums they found in the stands fighting it out, over a ham sandwich, I'd watch it. So,
Pat, I want to ask you real quick.
Go ahead.
Do you think, we don't have to go deep into it. Adesanya Pereira, who do you think wins?
Right now, Adesanya. I got some work to do, but I think Adesanya.
Okay, cool. Same.
I mean, just since we're going down that road, it's like I've seen. And again, I got to do the tape before I make a final justification for it. But we've seen power punchers against Adesanya before. He's a very slick mover. And we've seen Pereira against some people, he should have dusted. And sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't, right? Like Bruno Silva was a test of that. That's a fight I'm really going to dissect and watch and see for opportunities for him in that fight. Don't get me wrong. I think it's
my submission.
I think it's a dangerous threat. Yeah, I think it's a dangerous threat. But, I don't know. We'll see. How old is Adesanya at this point? Is he up there?
That's a good question.
He's like only like low to mid 30s, right? Like barely in his mid 30s. So
I just feel like the people are so confident on Pereira because of their two kickboxing fights. But if you watch those fights, how are you confident? Pereira was losing till the knockout, and the decision was close. So it's like.
Yeah, no. I'm liking the Adesanya side pre-tape, which means nothing to me because I gotta watch the tape. But then I'm also looking at maybe the under if that's lined at something nice. So maybe that. But moving on to something that's almost the opposite of that, but at 115 now, Amanda Lemos versus Marina Rodriguez. This is a spot where we've got a technical striker in Marina Rodriguez, and we've got a technical striker maybe for like one or two rounds in Amanda Lemos, in my opinion. Amanda Lemos is going to be your underdog in this matchup, and we're looking at a price tag of Let's see here. We're looking all the way at plus 186 right now on some books. We're looking at minus 220 for Marina Rodriguez. You could do a little bit better than that. I got her at minus 205. I do have a bet on her. I went 3 units on her at minus 205. I like her to win this fight. I think it's a puncher's chance for Amanda Lemos, or maybe even a club and sub chance for her. I like her. I think she's exciting. I think she's had some good spots, but I don't think she's had the high-level experience, and especially not that experience going 5 rounds of a fight. So you've got Rodriguez has been there a couple times now, beating Mackenzie Dern, beating Michelle Watterson, which say what you want about both of those opponents. At least she was able to display good, patient technical striking over 5 rounds. And her last fight against Yan Xiaonan, I was very impressed with because she lost decisively and dominantly, in my opinion, the exchanges in round 1. And she comes back in round 2, round 3, maintains her good technique, wins those rounds, and wins the fight. So, and she's got some power on her punches too. Like maybe it's not fight ending, but it could be fight ending if Amanda Lemos falls apart in rounds 3 through 5. So I like the 4-5 decision for Rodriguez, which is I've seen at plus 105. On some books. I think Bovada had that at plus 105.
It's out already?
Yeah. It's on Bovada at plus 105. I saw right before the show.
That's
for
great.
Rodriguez, 4-5 or decision. The under
That's
4.5, I don't mind either at minus 125. Because if you're thinking that Rodriguez could win, and then you're thinking that Lemos' best chance at winning are inside the distance 1 and 2, you could do that under 4.5 at minus 125. That's not that bad. But I like Rodriguez quite a bit in this spot. Like I said, I'm 3 units deep on her at minus 205. What do you think in this spot, man? How much of a chance do you assign Amanda Lemos? And do you agree with this money line as a whole?
Yeah, I agree with it. And like now there's this narrative also, right, that we were talking about before, that Lemos got on a flight last night. That's Marina Rodriguez has been there, right? So now we've got this narrative on top of everything else. But I'll say this. You look at the Lemos-Angela Hill fight, and it kind of tells you everything you need to know. Marina Rodriguez is just Angela Hill times 2 in skill level, in my opinion, in terms of the striking. She's just better. She's improving rapidly. She's just great. Marina Rodriguez is a great striker. And I think that Lemos, unfortunately, slows down in rounds 2 and 3. She hasn't even been to 4 and 5 yet. So I can't confidently bet that dog personally. And I feel like I have a lot of reasons to be confident in Marina Rodriguez. So, yeah, I'm on the same page as you. Instead of playing her money line, what I did was I parlayed her with our guy Bautista. I got that for minus 105. Played it for 2.2 units. Kind of like it.
Okay, not bad. What's the combined odds on that? I'm sorry.
Minus 105. And I am going to play the 4-5 decision for Rodriguez as well. I think that's great.
Yeah, I saw that. Again, Bovada sometimes does open up that a little bit higher than some books, but that might be right on the money. I think it is 4-5 decision. Yep, 4-5 decision plus 105 in the favor of Rodriguez there. I like that one a lot. But I like her money line. Her money line at this point at like minus 220 and above, I think it is set correctly, so maybe not a lot of extra value, but I just think it hits more often than not. I just think Amanda Lemos is technical early. I do like her technique. I like her ability to just look for the end of the fight and be very, very viciously powerful with those hooks. But as it goes on, she gets more desperate than technical, by the end of round 2, round 3, again, like you saw that in the the Angela Hill fight with Lemos, right? She kind of gets a little bit more desperate than technical, whereas I've seen Rodriguez maintain her ability to, just stay technical, score points, get in the inside, get out, use all types of weapons, especially in the clinch. I like Rodriguez in this fight. Her elbows in the clinch are nice. She knows how to maintain distance pretty well and push off the cage and circle off after doing damage and then go back to pointing at range. Amanda Lemos just swings at air a lot of the time and literally swings herself off of her own feet at some points going for it. And I love the tenacity. I love the aggression, but it's not going to win you a 5-round fight or conserve energy for a 5-round fight. So best case scenario, she's very timid in round 1 and has some more cardio going later into the fight, right? For Amanda Lemos, that would be the best strategy. How much do you see her going for like a wrestling game plan in this fight? Do you think she'll mix it up?
I don't know about wrestling because she doesn't do it often. I think she might surprise us a little bit because she's been talking. She talks about this stuff and she's passionate going into the Watterson fight, right? I thought the line was too wide. I did think Lemos would beat Waterson, but she was talking about a submission. She's like, I'm going to get a sub. I just got subbed by Andrade. I'm going to show that I have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. What's good, bro? And she did it. She did it. She got the sub. So you do have to give it to her. She's growing. She's improving. She cares. She's got the heart for sure. But in my opinion, Marina's got the same things. She's got the heart. She's young, improving, and I just think she's better. So
I agree with you, Ben. Is this going to add views to my channel now that Kanye West is on? He's in the news, Mike. I don't follow the news that much, but this has come across my desk recently.
I'm a Jew. I can't.
Is this gonna
I can't talk about this on air.
You're the one to talk about this on air, dude. Yeah, get some controversy here.
Politics ain't for me on here, bro.
We got that's hardly political. I don't think that's a very controversial take, but anyways, we got Prince of Mischief asking for us to predict the Pereira KO line. I don't think it's going to be that juicy, is it? Like he's plus 147, plus 150 as an underdog. I would imagine the KO props like plus 200, plus 210.
I bet even lower because I don't think the bookies are going to give him much of a decision shot.
Right, they're gonna say KO. You know, is going to be.
You said he's what, like plus 140 right now?
Plus 145, plus 150.
Watch, he's like plus 160 by KO.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be much more. Like I think a good line for that would be like plus 200, plus 210.
I think if you like Pereira, just go money line, man, and just ride.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Because what if
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's going to be, what if he lands one overhand or one hook or one big thudding body kick, and then all Adesanya's going to do is just throw leg kicks and jabs.
I'm telling you, bro, Adesanya rear naked. If I can bet that shit, I'm going to bet that.
That'd be awesome. Prince of Mischief saying, how awful would this card be if Lemos couldn't make the fight? It would be pretty bad. And yeah, thank you, Daz Files. We're going to wrap up here with just give me like your top two props that you like on this card, Mike. For me, it's definitely the Miranda Maverick inside the distance at plus 125. I think she gets that all day long. And probably my other prop is that Sholinian Nuerdanbieke and Derek Minner under 2.5, which what do we see here? I saw that at minus 130. I like that for Minner and Sholinian Nuerdanbieke, who you said had how many finishes combined? Something insane. So
according to our Uncle Wheezy, 60
finishes combined between those two guys at the weight class. I think the under is a pretty good bet there at minus 130 for either guy to win. I think it happens. So those are a couple of my top ones that I'm going to put a bet on that under for sure. I've already bet the Miranda Maverick inside the distance. What are a couple of your favorite ones here?
Yeah, I'm not going to be too different. I'm going to play that as soon as we're off the show for sure. I already decided that. I like that one we were talking about, the Madsen minus 3.5 or plus 3.5.
Plus 3.5 on Madsen. Yeah, to just get one round. Just win one round and one judge's scorecards for Mike
chalk,
Madsen.
But like now that we talk about it, like I really like that. Like we need one round and that's it. I do like that quite a bit. Bautista inside the distance. And then I did want to talk about my higher odd props real quick. I'm looking at Dawson round 3, which I think is like plus 1,000 right now. I'm waiting on FanDuel and Bet Rivers. I really do think I'm gonna get to Pascual inside the distance and maybe
who in round 3?
Dawson.
Dawson round 3. I like that one.
And then possibly Pascual as well. I think that might be a little sneaky look because Tamir's Vidal, if you watched her against Aileen Perez, before she got that DQ win, she was just getting destroyed on the ground.
She was.
So if she goes all 3, I mean, if she makes it to round 3, I wouldn't be shocked if Pascual picked up a W there. And let me give one more good one. I kind of like Bautista sub plus 600. I kind of like that one.
Yeah, I mean, he just did it. He could pull it off again. I love when you get like a big plus number on something you've seen play out before. That's great. Just like the Miranda Maverick fight, like getting plus 200 on submission there when you've seen her submit this same opponent before. Like that's kind of nice. So, yeah, man. I appreciate all 21 of you guys in the live chat hanging out for this UFC Vegas 64, which I know is not the greatest card. I know we want the next pay-per-view, but It just shows how dedicated of mixed martial arts fans and gamblers we all are, hanging out and breaking down every fight of this 12-fight card. So, yeah, you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe if you have not already. Again, we're talking about a lot of props and a lot of different betting lines. You want a nice portfolio of sportsbooks to go to. Check out BetUS, who I'm partnered with, and the link for that is in the description, as well as the promo code Addicted to Combat 125 for a nice deposit bonus. They do have some really good prop lines for method and combo on this card as well. And Mike, dude, it's been an honor. You always answer the call whenever I put out the bat signal to have you on the show, and I love breaking down fights with you, dude. So give everybody, a good promo for, how many fight leagues you go over on a weekly basis on your Twitter and on your YouTube. You do live streams like almost every day. I'm on YouTube. I see you live breaking down LFA or something. So the floor is yours.
Hell yeah, man. First off, thank you, Pat. I love this guy. If you guys don't already know, I've done a bunch of shows with Pat. He's probably my favorite person in the space. So I was hyped when he hit me up for this. In terms of where to find me, it's on the screen at Couch Warrior Pod. When we hop off of this stream, I'm going to go eat dinner, walk my dog, and then break down Aries FC, ACA, and I think I'm missing out on EFC. I'm looking for some spots. I'm not going to put up a video, but if I hit bets, I'm going to put them up. I did make an LFA video. That's already up. You can go on my channel, Couch Warrior Podcast. It's there. I didn't place many bets on LFA, just one dog shot right now, but I put up the breakdown. So that's where you can find me. And again, thank you, Pat. Love you, brother.
Of course, dude. Love you too. Much respect. And yeah, those are, I love having action on those when you break those down and give bets, because that's like Friday night action. Like we watch the weigh-ins. We know what's going to happen. We're kind of jonesing for the next UFC card on Saturday. And then you get to scratch that gambler's itch and watch some violence, make some money on a Friday night. So check out Mike for sure. Fully vouch for all of his bets and content. Thank you to everybody in the chat, and I will see you guys very soon for the next Best Bets and Props video. All of my bets will be out very soon. Cheers.